The Orlando Magic, currently at the time of this recording, they're 6-2, but we're not going to talk about them as a team. What we're going to talk about is one of their young star players that they hope to build the franchise around. He got injured. Markelle Fultz suffered the torn left ACL. And I feel like this is a sad story. This is a guy who, when he first came into the league, he had shoulder problems that made him sit out with Philly. He then gets traded to Orlando. He finally has a chance. His rookie season was basically last year. He played okay. And even though his numbers don't show it this season, I mean, it was just the beginning of the season. And I feel sad because he didn't have a chance to develop into the player that he wanted to develop in. I mean, he's still 22, so he has a long way to go. But now you lose Jonathan Isaac, who's another young player, and Markelle Fultz, both to ACL injuries. It's a sad story.
I think this is a huge blow to Orlando's future because like you said, Markelle Fultz is 22 years old. He was just starting to get it going, just starting to get his game back. I remember him coming out of college. He was looked at as the best player out of college. At Washington, he put on numbers. He was doing phenomenal. Then that shoulder injury, like you said, really did him damage. But he came back to Orlando, a new environment, a new spot. He fixed it up, and now he tore his ACL. I think he's going to come back stronger just because of the new medicine and the new production and how we can build people back up. So I like the direction that he's going in. He's going to be fine. I know that for a fact. But how is this going to affect his game? Because his game is predicated on his athleticism, and he still is working on that jump shot. But I think for Orlando's future, they just gave him an extension. Then he tears his ACL. So this is going to be huge for them in a sense, not just him, but Jonathan Isaac also, because those are the two guys that they paid. Those are the two guys that decided, all right, these are the two guys I'm going to work with for the future. And both of them have bright futures. So I feel bad for him, but I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. The one good thing for Markelle Fultz, but unfortunate thing for the Magic, as terrible as it sounds, is they just gave him that extension this offseason, 3 years, $50 million. So at least he got paid, which is a good thing. It would have really been sad to see him have a nice year last year, coming back from all those injuries, and then get injured this year without being paid. So at least he got his contract, and hopefully he can use that time to work back and get back to full strength. But in 7 games, he was playing all right. He was about 15 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. And you were starting to see that potential, even at the end of last year, of those flashes of why teams thought that he was the consensus #1 overall pick. And, he had all the potential in the world. Like Riv said, those shoulder injuries ruined him in Philadelphia. And he just got caught up in maybe not a perfect situation where they were moving too fast for his development and he wasn't ready to be on that competitive of a team yet. And he got this reset button almost in Orlando. So to see him now take that step back is super unfortunate. But I like what Orlando has going for them. They got to get past these injuries, but I think John Isaac is going to be a great player. Markelle Fultz, if he can come back healthy, and they have some young talent there, and they have some veteran pieces that at one point you have to imagine they'll start flipping. I like the basis that they have right now, but their future is becoming more and more murky with these injuries. And, they've been playing well. So they could be a playoff team again, but ultimately, I don't know if that's the best thing for them.
They're one of those teams that they're playing well, and it's a credit to their defense. I mean, right now they're the sixth rated defense in the NFL according to, if you use defensive rating. And Vucevic and Terrence Ross are both averaging 20 points per game. Terrence Ross he was already a great sixth man last season, and this season he's taken a huge step. But what I think that people aren't talking about enough is that Markelle Fultz going down now means they're probably going to start Cole Anthony. You go in that direction, and now Cole Anthony has to perform sooner rather than later. This is a great opportunity for him to showcase what he has. So far, he's been extremely inefficient, averaging about 9 points per game. And he was inefficient in college, so this isn't something new. But hopefully, Cole Anthony can figure it out because, I mean, they pretty much drafted him to kind of be that insurance policy for Markelle Fultz because you weren't sure what Markelle Fultz was going to be. When they traded for him, this was a project. This wasn't a proven player. They took a chance on him, and in last season it worked a little bit, but now this year, obviously, Cole Anthony has to step up now.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is also a decision when they can figure out early with next year's draft. I think I'm pretty confident Orlando has their pick. So if they do fall in late, they can decide, okay, can we go in this Cole Anthony direction? How well does he play this year? Do we need to draft another guard in next year's draft? Because like we all keep talking about, next year's draft is loaded. So I think this is a best case scenario to see what Cole Anthony is and to still work on Markelle Fultz. I hope, like you said, I hope Cole Anthony looks good, but his inefficiency in college, he was doing a lot of the work in college. He was their primary playmaker. He was their primary scorer. And his jump shot isn't always there. But I am hoping that he can be that guy for them because I do like him as a player. But this is a sad case for Orlando. They have to figure out what direction they're going in because, like Jack said, they have a lot of pieces that they can unload. They can get some first round picks out of Vucevic if they decide he is about to be 30. Terrence Ross, a spark plug, kind of like a Lou Will roll off the bench. They can get something for him. So they still have Aaron Gordon. You know, that's a guy who's probably going to be what he is right now at this point for the rest of his career, so they can unload on him. So they got a lot of guys that they can get some draft picks out of. So hopefully they make the right decisions.
Yeah, Orlando. I mean, they're 6-2, but in my opinion, I don't think the teams that they've beat are very impressive. I mean, the Cavs, they beat OKC, then they beat the Wizards, which we know they're horrible defensively, and the Heat. Those are the only teams that they've beaten so far. The Heat is a great win, of course, but the other teams they're not really great wins. You know, they're 6-2, but that 6-2 may be a little bit jaded. I don't know how confident I am in them continuing that. You know, I still think they could be a playoff team though, 7 to 8 seed. We saw Atlanta on this hot start, and they're kind of crumbling down. They're coming back to earth. So you know, I think the seventh and eighth spots in the East are pretty much up for grabs for any team.
Yeah, and especially with that new playoff system this year that they're adopting from last year with the playing games, I think that the Magic will find themselves at least in a playing game this season, but they're kind of at the hands of everybody else in the East. You know, I don't consider them like now the Raptors have fallen out, but I still think the Sixers, the Pacers, the Celtics, the Nets, even the Heat are all pretty much going to be locks for the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But then from there, you know, I can almost see any team from the Eastern Conference making it. The way the Cavaliers have played, the Hornets have looked really good at times. Now the Knicks are playing awesome basketball. So teams that we didn't, the Bulls, I know Riv has been watching. So teams that we didn't really expect to play well are playing great basketball. So like I said, it makes the outlook a little bit more difficult for the Magic. I think they could still be a playoff team, but again, I question if that's the best thing for them moving forward. Because for the last few years, they've kind of been that team stuck in purgatory where it's like you're getting the seventh or eighth seed, but then you just get bounced in 5 games by one of the better teams in basketball, and you really have nothing to show for it.
Question: the play-ins, are those still lottery picks in the draft or no?
I think it ends up being the two teams that lose the playing games and miss the playoffs are in the lottery.
I
Okay,
mean,
so it's
yeah,
still
I mean, there are 16 playoff teams, so all the teams that don't make the playoffs are lottery teams.
because I was because if a play-in is essentially a spot where you can still technically get in, does that mean you can make the play-in, lose the play-in, and still get the number one pick? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
hypothetically, you could get the seventh seed and still be a lottery team. Well, you could finish the season as the seventh seed and still be a lottery team if you lose in the play-in
Wow,
tournament.
okay, wow, that's crazy.
So it's going to be a crazy year. But I like what Joel said about Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony coming in. You know, as much as it sucks to lose Fultz, you're going to get an extended audition for Cole Anthony. I thought they got good value where they got him at, and I think he's got good NBA potential, but he's got to get adjusted to that NBA speed. And it's always tougher, I feel like, for guards to adjust to the NBA level because everybody says that the game is just so much quicker. Everything moves quicker. So I think it'll be a good chance for him to get adapted at this level. And he's on a pretty good team with some good players. So it's not like he's just being hung out there to dry. You know, it's an interesting situation, and I'm very curious to see what path they're going to take.